my very best.
I'll rotate back and forth between, a lot of the Liberty podcasts that I love. I listen to Tom Woods and Ron Paul as much as possible. But I just do better reading. Like, I'm old school like that. But I don't do as much foundational reading as I used to. I just don't have as much time for it. And I've got a little bit more of a solid foundation at this point. So most of my interests are really keeping up with current events. And I think that's one area that that to me is the thing that I really learned from Ron Paul, that I think is a huge part of the reason why he was so effective. And I think it's one of the things that some libertarian influencers, particularly the ones who have, kind of lost a lot of steam over the last few years. Like, there were a few people, not to name names, who were amongst the bigger libertarians, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. And nowadays people aren't really looking to them nearly as much. These are the people who have like a ton of followers and get very little interaction on their tweets or their videos or things like that. Because if you're just talking about the non-aggression principle all day long, that doesn't mean anything to anyone. Like, if I go to my stepfather. Did you lose
I got
me?
you. I got
Okay.
you.
So if I go to like my stepfather, who's like a truck driver, and I start talking to him about, well, let me tell you about the non-aggression principle. He's like, what are you talking about?
He's not Reed Coverdale. What are you talking about?
Right. Really. He's the only one. There's 5 truck drivers in America, and Reed's 2
Right.
of them who would respond to that.
Right.
But, if you talk to him about that, he's like, what? Okay, you have some abstract principle. Okay, congratulations. But if I talk to him about why the price of lumber is skyrocketing, and it's because of Federal Reserve policy, and this is how much money was printed last year, and that, now all of a sudden you got a real conversation on your hands. But what Ron Paul was always great at is that he knew everything. I mean, if you bring up what's going on in Iran, he knows exactly what's going on in Iran, the entire history down to what happened this week. And that's a thing that I think libertarians got to focus on. So I try my best to stay really up to date with current events. Like, what's the crises right now that are facing the country? What's the latest? What just came out? What's going on with this whole lab leak theory? Okay. So you got to be on that. You got to go read what Nicholas Wade just wrote on Medium about that. Like, you got to, so that's, to me, that's just the most effective way. Because the philosophy is beautiful, but if it doesn't apply to real life, then this is meaningless and stupid. Our whole point is to apply this philosophy to real life. That's the value of it.
Yeah.
That's why communism is stupid, right? Because it's just like, okay, if human beings behaved in this way, you have a classless, stateless society. But in real life, they behave this way, and you have a genocidal famine.